What's going on, everybody? This is Captain Obvious, and welcome to my game review of A Hat in Time. First, let's talk about story. Players take on the role of Hat Kid. She flies her plush spaceship near a foreign planet, and a Mafia henchman, who by the way is in outer space without a suit, approaches the viewing glass and punches through it, causing a vacuum that sucks away timepieces, which are hourglasses that act as fuel, from her spaceship's vault. Hat Kid must then scour the planet's 4 distinct zones and endure a series of challenges in order to recover up to 40 missing timepieces. It's outlandish and over the top, but definitely gets an A+ for creativity. While the story may seem a bit weird, the writing is extremely spot on. I found myself laughing more times than I could count at the over-the-top dialogue. Characters spew out punchline after punchline, and most of them land as intended. Overall, 8 out of 10. Now let's talk controls. Jumping is the most important mechanic in any platformer. While this game doesn't reinvent the wheel in this category, it does demonstrate a satisfying level of ground and aerial control. A jump and double jump are complemented by a third diving jump, itself demanding the player flip out of the dive or risk a slide landing. In a way, flipping out of a dive felt similar to Gears of War's active reload mechanic. It gives the player an additional timing-based challenge and quickly rewards that action with better positioning. The camera angles give you full control, and although at times did feel a little clunky, it serves its purpose better than most games in the genre. Overall, 8.5 out of 10. Moving on to gameplay. A Hat in Time's signature mechanic lies within its hats. Balls of yarn that are found in each level can be assembled into different hats. The default hat is used to isolate the current timepiece objective. Another throws bombs at enemies or breakable areas. A ground pound and a hat that enables running represent another standard mechanic. A Hat in Time's final 2 hats, however, phase objects in and out of the world and slow down time, which is where A Hat in Time developed its most inventive gameplay sequences. Joining hats are badges. Essentially acting as perks, badges can enable a hookshot, turn the running hat into a scooter, magnetize nearby collectibles, negate fall damage, and a few other novelties. Badges are purchased from a strange vendor hidden in every level and occasionally in Hatgirl's ship. With upgrades, up to 3 badges can be equipped at a time. Some are more essential than others, like the hookshot, for example, is required for all of Alpine Skyline, but A Hat in Time leaves most of the other badges up to the player's discretion. A Hat in Time's first world, Mafia Town, keeps a respectable 3D platformer rhythm. A giant circular map centers on a mountain of sorts and is located with wandering bad guys, swift platforming challenges, and obscured secrets. Acquiring timepieces means winning a battle royal against Mafia henchmen, cheating to win a race, and collecting 3 golden tickets to open a treasure chest. The second world is Battle of the Birds. Instead of repeating the world with routine challenges, you're presented with 2 rival avian movie directors, each seeking Hat Kid's assistance in creating a new movie. The conductor, an owl, casts her as a detective trying to solve a murder across a series of train cars. DJ Groove, a penguin, is a chaos-obsessed party monster determined to throw a mixture of danger and adoration at Hat Kid. A Hat in Time even gives players a choice over which director eventually wins the Battle of the Birds. Each offers 2 timepiece earning challenges with measurable ratings, creating room for a finale and surprise encore. Battle of the Birds is also where A Hat in Time starts experimenting with different genres. Solving the conductor's murder mystery briefly transitions action into a timed stealth game. Moving through train cars, finding the right keys, and staying out of the sight of patrolling or cackling birds demands ruthless efficiency. Along completely different lines, DJ Groove hosts a citywide party where photographers trail Hat Kid as she bounces all over town. This sequence calls to mind Jet Set Radio's Merciless Cops. Practical stealth and 18-year-old Dreamcast games aren't exactly modern influences, but they both show a drive to escape a traditional definition of a 3D platformer. Subcon Forest continues this trend. Inside of its neon bog is a haunted house that replicates Amnesia, the Dark Descent's model of defensive horror. A Hat in Time isn't nearly as grim or scary, but it places a nefarious presence inside the house and challenges the player to neatly avoid her while moving from room to room. It's a rudimentary implementation of a popular design, but like Battle of the Birds, it shows a willingness to step outside of a safe standard. Alpine Skyline twists A Hat in Time back to form. It doesn't define any timepiece objectives, forcing an open world approach. Your default hat will point you in the right direction, but the game is much more insistent on the player skying around its floating islands and reaching their peaks. The windmill in particular contains a Hat in Time's most trying and difficult platforming sequence. Scattered around each level are glitches that lead Hat Kid to one-off challenge levels. These are often pure platforming sequences reminiscent of those Super Mario Sunshine levels where Mario wasn't burdened with the flood pack. Glitches also shift a Hat in Time's aesthetic away from a lush fantasy world and into a more serene, blocks floating in space style, consistent with dedicated platforming. These aren't especially challenging, but they are a nice change of pace. It's also worth mentioning that, per an original Kickstarter goal, A Hat in Time is slated to receive 2 additional bonus worlds in the form of free downloadable content. This seems like a lot. The base game only has 4 worlds that took me about 9 hours, so it's tough to imagine what kind of form these will take. A best case scenario would be the abundance of stellar content like Shovel Knight delivered over the last 3 years, but anything on par with Hat in Time's existing levels would be absolutely fine. What's more important is that in most cases, A Hat in Time is more interested in looking around than staring backward. This is a challenging exercise for a 3D platformer, and yet A Hat in Time keeps its perspective balanced between careful devotion and sensible progression. Being responsive to your environment, as it turns out, makes it easier to see where you should be going. Overall, 8 out of 10. Next up is art design. There isn't much negative to say about the game. Every level is so unique and every nook and cranny is filled with something special to look at. The mix of dark and light tones really separate each part from the previous one. There's always something interesting to see by exploring the worlds. Overall, 9.5 out of 10. Finally, let's talk about key misses. Economy is an area where A Hat in Time can struggle. Green spheres, which is A Hat in Time's currency, are everywhere in the world and respawn each time you leave. Most of the badges don't cost that much, and after 3 or 4 trips through Mafia Town, I didn't have to go out of my way to collect any for the rest of the game. It just seemed like a wasted opportunity to give us another collectible element to the game or add more to the shop. The glitch levels were also a big miss for me. I love the idea of heavily modifying an existing environment for a crazy new idea, and I just wish that A Hat in Time used more of its glitches to do stuff like this. Overall, the game comes in at an 8.5. It's a solid mix of nostalgia, playing on great memories of Mario 64 and Mario Sunshine, with its own blend of mystery and adventure mixed in. It's a solid entry in the revival of the 3D platform genre. That's going to do it for me, guys. Until next time, Captain Obvious out. Peace.